Welcome to this episode as Lorna and I are going to break down a really key process within the collaborative team meeting, which is focusing on key issues. And we are going to talk a little bit about something that comes up often regarding what makes an effective key issue and how can we get better at that over time within our school.
Are you a leader who is navigating the nuances of leading collaborative response in your school or district? Are you unsure of what collaborative response is? Are you looking to understand the critical role leadership plays when establishing and refining a collaborative response approach?
Collaborative response began as a grassroots approach to focus on the needs of students through a framework of collaboration. That approach has grown to a movement that is training leadership and education.
Through the Leading Collaborative Response podcast, Kurtis and I share our own experiences of leading collaborative response and lessons learned as we continue to learn and gain insight through the experiences of working alongside others. We also have the opportunity to engage in conversations with school and divisional leaders implementing the framework in their own organizations.
We know great leaders build great teams because that is what every child deserves. Subscribe to the Leading Collaborative Response podcast and join the thousands of schools seeing success for students through intentional and focused collaborative efforts. Before we jump into the episode, remember to join our mailing list at jlinsiders.com. Every Saturday, we send out an exclusive video only to our mailing list, along with other templates, resources, videos, and more. We also share upcoming events and opportunities you may not hear about anywhere else. Go to jlinsiders.com to become part of the JL Insider community. So, as we get started, Lorna, why don't we talk first about why the key issue process makes the collaborative team meeting structure different than we're just getting together to talk about students?
Yeah, so different and actually quite challenging too. So when we think about the key issue process, it's very specifically designed in order for us to be able to begin a conversation around a student, but very quickly to shift to how do we build our practice, our collective practice as a team around a particular issue that we are seeing happen and reoccur within our classrooms.
So we mentioned in that key issue process that it's intentionally designed so that we don't focus specifically on a student and that we're not focusing specifically on the practices of a teacher. So explain how we would do that in the meeting if you were facilitating the key issue process.
Yeah, so this is something that we actually, it takes a long time for schools to really get to be really good at going through that key issue. So this is what it looks like. So the facilitator starts in saying, so who has a student that they'd like to bring forward with a key issue? And we want to limit the conversation around that. So asking the teacher to name a student and then name a key issue that they're experiencing at this time, but not going into too much detail. I think you often say, in 30 seconds or less.
Or 8 words or less. And again, this is why the pre-meeting organizer becomes so valuable over time. I've also facilitated some groups and seen some other groups where they flip that just a little bit, where they'll say, Lorna, can you share the key issue that you're experiencing? Don't mention the student yet, but just what is that key issue? So we get the key issue defined. And as a facilitator, I might have to ask a few questions to drill in just a little bit deeper to get that key issue focus, which is where we're going here today.
And actually, it's hard because as facilitator, you want to just take what the teacher has named first. And sometimes, and yes, this this is what we're going to talk about in a moment. But sometimes we can name like 3 different key issues in one statement about a student. And
Mhm.
we want to be able to pause, and that's the part that's hard as a facilitator. You want to be able to pause and ask some clarifying questions to make sure that you're getting to a key issue.
Now,
But going back to the process then, so we've identified a student, we've identified a key issue, then we pause and say, okay, for the whole team, are there any other students who are also experiencing that same key issue? So now we've named 5 or 6 students, and that's come from that one teacher naming the key issue.
Now, we say that process is really important because it's going to make it a shared key issue. It's
Yeah,
not going to make it about a practice. And now everyone in the room says, well, Lorna, here's an
yes.
idea. And now you're overwhelmed. And oftentimes you're evaluating or responding to suggestions coming of, oh, I've tried that, or that I don't think that would work for the student. So it's why we want to put multiple and make it shared.
That's actually a good indication that your key issues process is not working well, is when teachers feel like they're in the hot seat
Yeah.
and they're just getting all of these ideas thrown at them, or that we're talking about a student and we're constantly talking about what we should do for that student. Those 2 things tell us your key issue process is not actually
Okay,
working.
so let's imagine that we've refined the key issue down to getting started when working on independent tasks. And
Perfect.
we've identified multiple students. Then what do we do?
Okay, so what we often suggest, and it can be embedded in your agenda, but even more purposefully, and it becomes a tool later on, is to be able to actually move away from your agenda and document on a separate page the name of the key issue and then the brainstorm.
Yeah,
And
so
that's
what
what you
could we do?
engage in next is name everything that you have seen or that you've done in the past or the present around that key issue. We want to accept any ideas that are coming forward, and
Yeah,
we want to
no,
document all those
and
ideas as
no
well.
judgment during this
No judgment.
stage. Even when I come up with an idea and in your head you're going, that's not going to work.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, we just want ideas up. And we know that through that idea generation, someone will suggest something and then someone else goes, ooh, I like that. What
Yeah.
if? And we extend it or we add on to it.
And this is a great opportunity for us to share practice, but then to grow practice
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, that we just keep expanding ideas because it's not about a teacher and it's not about a student.
Right. So then once we have that brainstorm, we then want to come back and say, all right, Curtis, for the student that you've have in mind or have named, what's
Mhm.
one thing that you
Yeah.
want to try? We action
Yeah.
and put the commitment of I'm going to try that particular strategy and I think I can get it started by this Friday.
We sometimes see schools actually stop after that brainstorm and that they've just had this great professional conversation about all these ideas. But the way that we actually make a difference for students at that tier 2 at your classroom, within your classroom, is employing those strategies in a specific way, which is
Yeah.
why we come back to what is one thing that you would like to try for the one student that you have identified
And
and by what time?
yeah, and knowing that even though I'm trying this for Tanisha,
Yeah,
it's highly, highly possible that the action I'm taking is something that is more universal in practice. It's going to benefit not just Tanisha, but other students within the
mhm,
classroom. But making it specific to a student, it allows us when we come to follow up to talk about, okay, how did that go
yeah.
for Tanisha? It gets much more drilled down and specific rather than how did that go for everyone?
Right, and we're actually making impact on
Right.
students by doing that. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is being able to gather those strategies on that separate document really allows us to step away from the teacher or the student,
Mhm.
but it also creates an incredible bank of ideas that are accessible at any time. And
Yeah.
we name those docs by the key issues so that they're really easy to find and just lots of ideas. And on those docs, there are no teachers' names and no students'
Right.
names.
Now, this then connects, which is another video topic, to our ongoing refinement of our
Yeah,
continuums of
that's right.
support, that there's things being suggested from our continuum as strategies and things being added to our continuum. Okay,
Yeah.
so we understand why we want that key issue process established. But what do we do when a school says, we sometimes have trouble crafting effective key
Mhm.
issues, or we don't always come with well-prepared key issues. Share a little bit of your thinking
Yeah.
around this Goldilocks
Yeah.
kind of idea with key issues. We'll be right back to continue this episode.
Do you feel like you're talking about the same students in virtually every conversation? Are you struggling to keep up with the number of students being referred for supports beyond the classroom? Are teachers struggling with increasingly complex classrooms? Well, you're not alone. My name is Lorna Hewson, lead learner and co-founder of Jigsaw Learning. In this free on-demand webinar, I'm going to be sharing with you the importance of 4 layers of teams that are essential in every school to ensure success for all students. We will then observe and unpack a unique team called the Collaborative Team Meeting. Throughout this webinar, I will share resources and samples to support your work back in your school. So excited to have you join me to learn more about creating a system of supports that exemplifies why every child deserves a team.
And now back to our conversation.
So this is, the Goldilocks and the Three Bears dilemma. What we find is that that's why facilitating this process is really important. Really thinking, how do we get to an effective key issue? We need to think about those key issues in terms of sometimes they're too hot, sometimes they're too cold,
Yeah.
but what we're looking for is the just right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go there. When you say too hot, too cold in relation to a key issue, what do you mean?
Yeah, okay. So sometimes in a team meeting, your key issue might be, or a team will bring up, well, numeracy is our key issue.
Yeah.
Well, that is massive. It's
Or
way too big, and there you will never arrive at specific strategies. That's what we're trying to do. And you'll never be able to generate the ideas that you want to be able to access by having such a broad key issue.
yeah.
And your brainstorm is going to be totally stilted.
Yeah. And another one that I often see is student engagement.
Yeah.
Like that might be
Yeah.
an overarching focus or
Yeah,
umbrella,
that's a
but
great
naming that
focus.
as the key issue, oh, there's so much that goes into that. We need to get a little more specific. Now, what happens on the other end
Yeah.
if we're way too specific in that key issue?
So that's the too cold.
Yeah.
Too cold is when we've actually gone into a lot of detail about the student that they want to bring forward. And it now becomes about crisis. It becomes about a very specific situation around that student. And that's not a good key issue either, because we can only, your brainstorm is again stilted because it becomes about that one child.
So this is actually when I facilitate team meetings, I'll often say to the note taker,
Yeah.
please don't
Pause.
write anything in the key issue box until we're able to clarify and paraphrase this down. Because if I say, I'd like to talk about Samson, and my key issue is they're really not engaging well in class. There's lots of conflict with classmates, and I'm seeing all sorts of disruptive behaviors that are happening right now due to just being really unsettled in the classroom. Now, if the recorder's been writing all of that down, this is too big. I probably named about 4 key issues
Yeah.
within that description. It's going to take a facilitator helping to pare that down for us to get to that, like I say, 8 words. Trying to get succinct in that. So again, as a facilitator, this is really, really important. So
the facilitator, I'm just going to jump in there, but the facilitator then asks questions like, you know, when does this occur in, you know, who
Yeah.
in relation to what situation in your classroom is this
Do
occurring?
you see this when the student's working independently or in small groups?
Yeah.
Are you engaged in direct instruction or are they working on independent tasks? Some of those kind of questions.
Some of those questions will allow us to get to a key issue that is broad enough to involve other students, but specific enough to be able to generate those strategies.
Right. Okay. So if we're able to get that succinct, obviously then it helps with being able to add
Yeah.
other students to that key issue.
Yeah.
And then that brainstorming becomes so critically important. So let me share an example of one that I had done in a school where a teacher said, right now, my key issue is the student is ghosting my classroom.
Yeah.
Well, I had to take a little
What
bit of
does that
time of, I think I know what you mean, but can you explain what you mean by ghosting? And they said, there's oftentimes where I will turn around and poof,
They're
they're
gone.
gone. They've hit the bathroom. Sometimes they come back after a bit of time. Sometimes they don't. And I'm fine. I'm really struggling with it. Now, if we had left that as the key issue, um, I would suspect a lot of the strategies and ideas being generated would be all about things beyond the classroom. Things
Yeah.
like we need to implement better hall pass systems. We need more
Yeah.
admin supervision in the hallways. I was able to ask some of those questions, like you're
Mhm.
able to say, of when do you see that happening most? Is it when you're engaged in direct instruction or when the students are working independently or in groups? And teachers said, no, if I'm looking out at the class and doing some direct instruction, I've got visuals. It's when I turn to work with a small group or I um, turn to help assist another student, then I look up and they're gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you find that then that happens more when you're starting the class work time or individual work time, or more towards the end? And said, no, when I think about it, it's usually right when we get started. Like I'll look up and poof, yeah, it just happens.
Yeah.
And so then we refocused and said, do you think it might be that the student doesn't know how to get started and then uses this as an escape? And the teacher went, yeah, maybe that's happening.
Mhm.
Um, it could be a possibility. So from there, we said, okay, well, let's then suggest that that could be the key issue is uncertainty when starting independent tasks.
So a couple things here is that realizing that we are taking a guess about what it could be,
Right.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
It may not be the absolute solution for that student, but this is an area that we can generate that we know other teachers are also going to find
It's
that in.
it's almost scientific method in
Yeah.
place of I've created a hypothesis and now
Yeah.
let's determine what we could do.
Mhm.
And so when we recrafted that key issue, it all of a sudden really directed attention. The first key issue of ghosting
Yeah.
might draw attention away from what can I do as a teacher, where the second one, when we refined and said difficulty getting started or uncertainty getting started on independent tasks,
Yeah.
well, that's totally in my wheelhouse as a teacher of
I
what
can do something
I
about
could
that.
do. And we can start
Yeah.
exploring and explaining. So I did see one school where they intentionally did this, where they would write the key issue. And it was particularly in relation to if the overarching focus was wellness, is what
Mhm.
they were utilizing. So they'd write a key issue, and then right underneath in their meeting doc, they put what could be 3 root causes that
Mhm.
are underneath that key issue, which was fascinating because they said usually by the third root cause, we're starting to get into some innovative thinking.
Yeah.
And then they would say, all right, for root cause number 1, what could we do? And let's brainstorm root cause number 2. And then when teachers would reach the point of what's something that you want to try for Judinder, then you'd be able to say, well, knowing what I know, I think it's probably in relation to this. So I'm going to try this particular strategy that was suggested as my action to take away. So I love that
I love that too.
example.
Yeah, that's and that's really important to consider, especially when you're talking about behavior, attendance,
Wellness.
and any wellness or social emotional supports, because we always know that it's not about those things, it's about what's behind, what's
Yeah.
causing those behaviors. So being able to pause long enough to say, you know, what could be behind that.
Yeah.
is
So
important.
let's go then to something more academic. We'll be right back to continue this episode. Struggling to facilitate your first collaborative team meeting? We know that running effective, impactful team meetings can feel overwhelming, but we've got you covered. The Collaborative Team Meeting Starter Kit gives you everything you need to set up, organize, and lead meetings that foster real collaboration and results. And the best part, it's completely free. Inside, you'll get a real-life collaborative team meeting vignette, a ready-to-use CTM agenda and notes template to keep meetings structured and efficient, a pre-meeting organizer to help teachers prepare effectively, printable meeting role displays to ensure smooth facilitation, a facilitator support guide with step-by-step instructions, as well as a key issue process poster to reinforce the structured problem solving of a collaborative team meeting. All of this to help you start transforming your team meetings today. Download your free collaborative team meeting starter kit now at bit.ly/CTM starter, all one word. That's bit.ly/CTM starter, or find it under the resources tab on jigsawlearning.ca. And now back to our conversation. Let's say if the overarching focus was literacy or numeracy, what's something that we've seen, because oftentimes the data can elicit the key issue and can be much more precise, where, I've looked at the data and it's really obvious that the key issue is inferencing when engaging with new text. This is what the data revealed from our last screener.
Yeah, and
that we
that
did.
becomes a direct key issue generated specifically from the data. And when you get to that place of reviewing your data and analyzing your data, we always encourage schools to create a column in your spreadsheet that actually identifies key issues that you can name directly from your data so that you can generate some ideas and strategies in reference to that
So we've
specific
seen
area.
schools that when they're doing a data analysis process would be able to create the collection of, these are all the, let's use literacy, all the
Yeah.
literacy key issues that we are seeing within our data, and it creates almost like a cheat sheet,
Yeah.
which is super valuable. I saw in one meeting where you as a teacher were identifying multiple things that were going on, and the facilitator was able to say, if you look at our key issues list, what would be one that you could see? And then in their intention over time was, let's start linking the idea generation with these key issues. And in time, we could have a really impactful document that says, here's all the key issues. If you click on it, it'll open up all the different ideas and strategies that we've co-created over time.
Yeah, and that already gives you the beginning of those ideas that you can use for your idea generation. Another thing that I saw recently in a school was that they were really challenged by coming up with those good key issues. And so during a staff meeting, they actually engaged in an activity where they put out scenarios. So the admin designed a number of scenarios where they put them out to the staff to say, okay, if this scenario came up in a collaborative team meeting, what are the possible key issues that could be designed from that scenario? Just allowing the staff team to be able to engage in that process of designing an appropriate key issue. We actually have a resource based on that idea that is about practicing practicing and digging into those key issues. So we'll share that.
Yeah, we'll make sure that that's linked in there as well. So I was recently, last couple months in a school where they would engage in the processes that we're talking about. There would be the creation of the separate page, but then they had a magnetic whiteboard where they had probably 36 key issues that they had generated during the year. Each one was a page up on this board. They had put it into a protective sleeve, put a bit of magnetic strip on it, put it on the board. But then what they were having teachers do in the meeting was writing down, when you say, I'd like to try the student I have in mind is Jacqueline, and I'm going to try this. They'd write it onto a Post-it note, and then in time, those Post-it notes would go right up on the board, and each grade level have a different color of Post-it. So if you were grade 4, we're using orange Post-it notes for grade 4. I'm grade 5, so we're using blue. And it created a awesome visual to be able to say, here's all the different key issues that we're experiencing, ideas, but then here's all the students that we're hoping to impact through this. And then their intention was that the week following, they would always come back to the board. It was a bit of an after-school activity, a quick one, where review the board, look for your color of Post-it notes, and if something that you tried is having success or this is no longer a key issue, take the Post-it note and put it to the back. And they had said at the end of the year, we're going to turn these around and just
celebrate
what we've been able to do. It was an awesome visual to be able to show this is the impact that we're having through our processes that we have established now.
And I love the visual piece of that too. That's amazing.
Our WeCollab software then also has a feature within it where if we type in the key issue and press suggestion, it opens up here's a bunch of ideas related to a keyword search in relation to that key issue of things that we've talked about maybe 6 months ago, 3 years ago, that all the bank of resources that then also pulls ideas from our student support network, which is our repository of or bank of strategies and resources. And it just becomes one more tool of, if key issue is this, here's some starting places that we can think about, and then we can still brainstorm and then be able to say, all right, for this student, we're going to try this. Lorna is responsible by this date, and then generates all of those meeting notes, and then starts to keep that individual profile of saying, here's the things we've tried for different students and what's working, what's not. That becomes super valuable as students transition from grade to grade and school to school.
And such a huge impact in that profile and understanding what works and what doesn't work for students. And that the bank of ideas in WeCollab is pulled from like schools all over. Anyone who basically has used that software, there's ideas from a number of schools, which is exciting too.
So we hope that this conversation has helped in not only understanding the key issue process, but also knowing how in time we can refine and get better at that within the school with some different resources. We'll attach a number of things into the show notes as always to be able to access to help support you in this work. So with that, please reach out if you have other ways that you've helped your teams to really get proficient at that key issue process. Reach out if there's questions that you have. We would love to be able to connect and further engage. So with that, we wish you all the best and take care, everyone.
See you soon.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at www.teachbetterpodcastnetwork.com. We'll see you on the next episode.